So the top things that I look at is one, a realistic plan. If you say, hey, I'm going to buy this business that's done $1 million a year for 20 years, and in the first year we're going to do 5 million, and that's what I'm basing everything on, you're not being realistic.
All right, so I have Brian Livingston here. Welcome back to the Untrapped Entrepreneur Show. As you guys know, the robot is going to introduce Brian. So Brian, I haven't shared this with you yet, but I always like to know how accurate the robot is. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. And if they're good lies, then go ahead and own them. Just say it's true. But
Definitely.
you can feel free to correct the record. All right, so it says, welcome to the Untrapped Entrepreneur, where you explore the secrets of successful entrepreneurship and how to break free from the traps that hold you back. That's great. It even gave me, my show, an intro. I'm your host, and today I'm thrilled to have Brian Livingston as my guest. Brian is a Frisco City Council member. That's Frisco, Texas, for those of you that don't know, just north of Dallas. A banking executive and a serial entrepreneur. He has owned and operated several successful businesses, including Celebrity Bakery, Texadelphia restaurants. He's also a passionate collector and trader of baseball cards and owns a company called Cardboard Legends. Brian has a wealth of experience and knowledge in both the financial and the creative aspects of entrepreneurship, and he will share with us some of his tips and tricks on how to succeed in any venture. What do you think, Brian?
It was all right, except I don't own Cardboard Legends.
Okay.
I own We Buy Trading Cards.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. I hadn't heard that before.
I hadn't heard that one either, but I'm going to check them out after this show.
Hey, maybe it's not even real. You could go ahead and grab it.
Maybe not.
That's a pretty
Absolutely.
good name.
It's a great name.
Okay, so what's the website for the trading cards company?
WeBuyTradingCards.com. We buy all sorts of trading cards, mainly sports, but we do Pokemon, wrestling, you name it, we buy it. And we also buy other memorabilia, but mainly sports cards.
So WeBuyTradingCards.com seems like a pretty good domain. Did you have to wrangle that away from someone else, or was it like $8 on GoDaddy?
One of my friends said that sounds like a good name. Got on his laptop, did it, and bought it for me. So
you didn't have to pay like thousands of dollars to get it from somebody else.
I also own We Sell Trading Cards.
Interesting.
So not real creative, but consistent.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to get into the trading card business. It's fascinating because I do see guys like Gary Vaynerchuk out there. I mean, he is real heavy into collectibles, trading cards.
Yes.
There's definitely a wave and a trend that has come back. I remember collecting cards as a kid. Let's talk about how we met. So, and I don't even know some of this because you were like too high level for me to even talk to at the bank at the time. But I got an SBA loan from First National Bank in 2008, and I think I've shared this story on the show a couple of times, but 2 weeks before Lehman Brothers collapsed, a 25-year-old kid who had no experience in the hair industry, who had no net worth, was approved for an SBA loan from First National Bank. And I was working with another banker named Brad. Brian was like in a different league. Like I said, I didn't get to talk to him. But were you involved at all in the decision for me to get a loan?
Just a little bit. When I heard the concept, I kind of looked into it and thought, this kid. I guess I was the same age.
Yeah.
Right concept at the right place at the right time. Frisco, Texas, coming in with this, I thought it was great. And I probably played a little role in helping it get approved, but not much. But I mean, I fell in love with the concept first time I heard it and thought you were onto something.
Well, thank you. I remember hearing a lot of guys that said it absolutely wouldn't succeed, and I was crazy, which I totally get now. Now that I have some wisdom behind me, and I can see how they would think that. So you're at the bank. You were specializing in, I think it was like, I don't know if it was real estate or bigger dollar deals. Like, why didn't I do business with you? I felt like you were doing something else.
I mainly do, and I'm back into banking as we tell this story of my entrepreneurial life and back in banking. I was doing deals 5 million and above. Not SBA. SBA is a special skill set that you have to have in order to comply. You know how much paperwork's involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did 5 million and above, but it all kind of ran across my desk to look at, and I thought this guy's onto something great, and I got excited by it and was a client for quite a while.
Yeah, you started coming in early on. So
Yeah.
I think you may not think of yourself this way because all of us probably consider ourselves somewhat normal. we have to like, we have to think we're normal in order to live with ourselves. But I mean, you might be the first and last like banker entrepreneur. Like those two things
There's
seem to be
don't.
completely polar opposite.
Yeah, I was a banker in 2008 when the world started falling apart. I switched banks and made a wrong career move, and so I quit. And my wife was pregnant with her second child. We had just bought a house, or we were about to close on a house. I think we just bought it, and I quit my job and went to Vegas with my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And when I landed, I had a job offer from my future boss. It was a company that I turned down his loan, and he called me, and I went and was the CFO of El Phoenix and Snuffers and Mesalmaya. I did that on and off for about 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
and got the restaurant bug and opened my own restaurants up, and that's how we kind of reconnected. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you had risen. I remember you were CFO, but were president of the company for some time of the restaurant group, right?
I Second time I came back as the president. I left for 2 years and then came back, was the president, and became a COO, and spent some more time there, and then fell in love with the restaurant business and opened up to 8 of my
Yeah.
own
So going to
locations.
Firebird because we do have a lot of DFW listeners. Give us the nameplates on the
Yeah,
restaurants so they know.
absolutely. Mainly known for El Phoenix Tex-Mex restaurants. We bought Snuffers while I was there, Village Burger Bar, Taqueria La Ventana, Mesa Maya. I don't know if I said it. Village Burger Bar, Tulum, and I'm sure that there's a they bought
Twisted Root
Twisted
Burger.
Root
Mm-hmm.
Burger. They bought that. That was after me, but they bought that. Um, so yeah, it was an interesting time, and I joke with people. My first job in the restaurant
Yeah.
business was CFO. Never waited tables or did anything like
Well,
that, but
so you,
you got
that's
to
right.
start
You got to start
somewhere.
somewhere, and then you demoted yourself to entrepreneur.
Yeah, I did. I
Okay,
did.
so you got
Yeah,
banker, you go to Firebird, and I wanted to hear those nameplates because this is not like a Joe Schmo restaurant group. These are brands. If you're a Dallas Fort Worth
no.
resident, you're thinking, okay, this is a very sophisticated operation, high end brand, great product. You're at the almost the very top of that company. Imagine reporting directly into CEO.
Hmm.
Then you
Yes.
leave, come back, you run the organization as president. All right, so you and I've never talked about this. What happened when you said I want to do this on my own? How did you get to that point?
I was really just tired of working for the man. The restaurants at El Phoenix and all those, we had gotten them operating pretty well and clean. I was riding on a high horse thinking, I've got the magic
Mhm.
touch. I'm pretty good at this. So at the time, I was getting frustrated. The opportunity to buy Celebrity Cafe and Bakery came up. It was a troubled brand that had issues, and I got to pay a real low price for it. And I got 4 locations. I expanded them up to 6. Um, and then I opened up the first Frisco, Texadelphia, the original Texas cheesesteak for all of my
Mm.
Longhorn alumni. Did that and then I bought Plano, and then that went from 8 to 6 back down to 4 restaurants, just because the world was changing, economy was changing, and entrepreneurial life was harder
Weren't
than
you
I
even?
thought.
Didn't you even have a
So
position at Texadelphia franchisor at the brand level too?
I did, yeah. I was the interim president, trying to get the franchisees to play well together. Um, that was a challenge, taking a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, putting them in a room, and uh, getting them to all work. But yeah, I did that for a little bit. And then right before COVID hit, I ended up closing down all those restaurants, and sold Celebrity to another individual, and ended up just closing the
Gotcha.
Texadelphias before COVID.
Well, and
So
we had a shared experience in Dallas, Texas, in October 2019. We had no idea the
yeah,
pandemic was going to be next. That was like the worst thing that ever happened. Um, we had a tornado hit both of our locations. So Brian and I had the Gents Place was next door to Celebrity Bakery at Preston Royal. I'll be honest, man. For me, that ended up being a blessing in disguise, from just insurance money and resetting, especially with the
Yes.
pandemic. For me, like I had to weather the pandemic. I didn't realize that, I needed some of that money.
Well, it helped me end up making a sale that made sense for me because the insurance proceeds were probably greater than I could have sold the restaurant for as an operating brand. And so it kind of helped me plan a less painful exit than
Mm-hmm.
had it not hit. Um, and I think that's a great lead in. And you say that one of the best things that happened to you as an entrepreneur is you take a direct hit from a tornado. That may kind of lead to where the
Oh
rest of this
man,
show's going.
it's you well,
And you were great. You were great. You were down there. I was up in Frisco watching it, and you were taking pictures and updating me. And that I'm sure it looked worse in person, but
it was
that
wild.
night
I
was
went there
rough.
that evening, and it's one of those things where you just want to be like. For me, I just wanted to be on site and find my location, figure out what's going on, and I didn't realize it's raining and there's power lines down, and there's probably electricity all over the ground, and trees, and you can't see anything, and I'm just like, running through the neighborhood trying to get to the location. So sometimes you just,
Ignoring do not enter signs, if I remember right.
oh, for sure, yeah, it was complete lawlessness. Okay, so a couple of things come to mind for me when we talk about traps and things that entrepreneurs have to deal with. So two, I want you to touch on. One is we had in that situation, we had a tenant landlord relationship that we had to navigate, and then we also had this um, insured insurance carrier relationship as well, and we had to do both of those at the same time. I mean, I learned a lot just from negotiating on both those sides. Like I had to dive into my lease for the first time and dive into my insurance contract for the first time ever. No one reads that stuff. What did you learn from that experience, and like what would you do differently? How would you maybe have revised those agreements if you knew that was coming?
Well, I was lucky. I had from my time at El Phoenix, I had learned from some pretty good insurance consultants that we had. So I felt I was pretty well covered on the insurance part. Maybe a couple tweaks, just you don't ever plan to get hit by a tornado that destroys it. So I was pretty comfortable on that side. The landlord side, man, I learned a whole lot just from the whole experience of I'm never guaranteeing a lease again.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond a few, maybe a few years if it's a startup, but I'm never going to guarantee a lease again because um, um, there's so much that can go wrong that you don't ever anticipate. And when I was at El Phoenix, we had a team that did it. We had 70 restaurants, so if one goes down, it's not that big of a deal. You just don't. I never fully understood when you have four or six or five. You're losing 15, 20% of your revenue versus 2% or 1.5%,
Mm-hmm.
and it hurts a lot more. So, um, yeah, I'll never guarantee a lease again beyond the first 2 years. Um, you just can't get out of it. I mean, the thing's destroyed by a tornado. They're talking about my responsibility.
Yeah.
Like no, but yeah, it was tough. We kept all of our employees. We moved them to other locations, so I had too much staff. I went from not having enough to too many overnight, and lost on that. Tried to get reimbursed for some of that. Got a little bit, but the record keeping that they wanted. I mean, you probably
Mm-hmm.
experienced this too. Is just almost impossible for a small business owner to have.
Yeah. It was a
Of hours and people
it was
and
a battle because you had the event, you pushed your employees elsewhere, trying to calculate how much was lost revenue, what you would have gotten if you would have stayed open, and then you have to explain, the last several months and go, well, no, that was the summer months, and I would have gotten more because I was going into the winter, right? Because we were right in Q4, so they're looking at my
all
last
right.
few months, and I'm going, no, we make all of our money in Q4. Uh,
Well, imagine being a bakery. I mean,
same,
that's what I had. People don't buy cakes and stuff during the summer.
yeah. I just got on a little. It wasn't a Twitter feud. I don't feud with people on Twitter, but it was a conversation of a little bit difference of opinion on personal guarantees this past week. Um, I don't have a personal guarantee signed anywhere, and I am 100% with you. I just don't sign PGs. I haven't for a long, long time. And even when I was relatively small, what I did is I created a holding company that where management fees rolled into that showed really consistent profitability. And I used that management company as a corporate guarantor pretty early on. And I carry that that corporate entity around with me to guarantee, but essentially it's just a stream of cash flows coming up to the
Right.
management co. And so I was getting in a conversation with a guy that said, well, you gotta sign personally unless you have like 50 locations. I'm going, man, I did it at 4, but it takes a very thoughtful process to try to put yourself in a position. And if you don't know how important it is to not have a personal guarantee, you just kind of say, I'll get to it when I get to it. And you listen to people that say it's just one of
Yes.
those things you have to do. My message is you do not have to fall into the trap of a personal guarantee. If you can be creative, if you can find other entities that you might have that have some cash flow, the landlords are just people on the other side that want to feel good about the transaction.
They're looking for a source of repayment other than just the restaurant working or the hair place. They want to know there's something else to get paid. But yeah, I'm not going to ever do that again. I mean, at one time, I can't even imagine how much of a hard dollar amount I had leased, and I'm going to negotiate that if I sell the brand, I get off the lease as part of it. That they have to release me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that kind of bit me because COVID hit before I could get everything removed, so I was liable for uh, one lease that I didn't even own the company for during COVID. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely any entrepreneur watching this, get with an attorney and don't think you know it. Just
Yeah.
mitigate your risk from the first. It's worth the cost you'll pay up front is minimal compared to what you hopefully or possibly could avoid.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of just being aggressive. I have attorneys. I'm more aggressive than my attorneys. And
I'm more aggressive than my
yeah,
accountants.
exactly. Point is to just be aggressive. Well, I mean, the thing is, you
Yeah.
can't abdicate your responsibilities, and the attorney who knows what's going on in his or her life or how they're wired from a risk aversion standpoint. But I think this is probably another trap we could talk about is when do you listen to counsel and do everything they tell you to do? When do you say, no, I'm not doing that? I know you have all this experience. Like, how have you've got so much experience holistically from, banking and real estate and business ownership, politics. How do you discern when to just say, you're right, you've got more experience, and when to say, I'm going to do it my way?
Well, it's hard to specifically say, but one thing I do is I ask the attorney, hey, here's the situation. I give him the documents or whatever information I have. I listen to him out. I ask questions, get his recommendation, and then say, if I don't choose that, what are the possible ramifications? And then you're right. It's your life. It's your money. You just need to get as much information as you can to get an informed decision. And sometimes I even call an attorney that's not my attorney and say, does this make sense? And so far, my attorney has been pretty right. But I think really the mistake I made going into it is get that relationship with an attorney that you feel real comfortable with before you start getting into all this. I have one now that looks at everything I do um, before I do it, not
Mm-hmm.
after. That's a big secret. Um, but he's beneficial. We get along. We talk. We have the same kind of frame we look through stuff. So it's a very good relationship. But I think a lot of people probably wait until they've bought a business or expanded to try to find that, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
mistake.
Hey, how many employees did you have at the peak as an entrepreneur?
70 to 75, I believe.
Okay. So it's a lot of people going back. And I
Huh.
even hate to take you back to these days, man. It's like PTSD.
It is.
This, don't worry. There is a societal benefit to this. This is about service, public service, right?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but like going back to 70 to 80 employees, what were the most common things that you ran into? Top one or two, maybe recurring things that you had to work through, and maybe you figured it out, maybe you didn't.
Well, when I dealt with bakers and decorators, they're artists, and that's a unique personality, and they're artists and they're passionate, and They would want to go off on their own. They'd come back. They'd get recruited by other bakeries. They'd come back. Staffing, and I thought I had it hard back then, and now it's you know insane. Is finding the best people and keeping them is hard to do because the best people always want to move up and move forward, and you may not always have a spot in your organization for them, and you're going to lose them. If you hire the very best, you should lose some people. That's just because they're going to get management spots. And just managing their expectations and workload. We were very seasonal, so I'd be cutting back. I'd try to manage the amount of hours during the slow time, and then I'd kill them with hours, and they're complaining in from October through February 14th. They're complaining, and then February 15th they go back to normal hours. They're like, I can't live off
Mm-hmm.
this. I mean, so it's just the best employees are going to be wanted by others. They're going to have one opportunity, and the average employee is they're just not as loyal as they used to be, and they're paying me a quarter more, or they're 15 minutes closer to my house. And so we had a core group that stayed for years and years and years, but there was so much turnover trying to keep consistency. And you get a decorator that specializes in decorating rosette cakes. Well, then they quit, and you've got 15 orders for rosette. My wife learned to make them. I had a couple of managers learn how to make them. I tried once, and they told me to go home, take care of the kids. But they were artists, and they did a high quality product, and you were touching people's weddings and birthdays and bar mitzvahs and stuff like that. And those people just weren't reliable. I mean, I'm scared now if I go anywhere and order anything custom. How long have they been here?
Yeah.
Are they happy? Because
you've literally
turnover now you can't even hire them.
I mean, you have the perspective of you've literally seen the cake being made.
Yeah, absolutely. And now in banking, I mean, I can't even get people to interview for some jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And then you finally get them, and then they want to be the manager or assistant manager within 2 weeks. And some of them, you can see it, like they're going to move up.
Well, that's one of the traps.
So it's a challenge.
That's one of the traps I ran into was, and I have to consciously not do this. I've got a loyal team member. They're doing a great job. They want to move up, and I don't have a position for them. And I made the mistake of creating positions for people.
Oh, I did that
over
too.
and over again. It's like, okay, well, I mean, what do you want to do? Well, I really love HR. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, you can do HR. And I'm like, I didn't need HR.
Well, what I did is I made someone a senior decorator so I could justify paying them more and make them feel important. Then I've got 8 other decorators going, why am I not a senior decorator?
Yeah.
So you make one person happy, but you make 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more mad.
Yeah.
So.
Well, my only solution for that was, and again, it takes a lot of discipline. I got to do it consciously, is sometimes, like you said, if you've got great people, sometimes they're going to outgrow the organization. And it's okay to say,
Absolutely.
You know what, we don't have a position for you right now. You're extremely talented. Like if you can't fulfill this job role at this compensation, everything, it'd be really sad. It wouldn't be great, but I understand. I don't want to hold you back. And I've had some of those conversations like that.
Well, the thing is, you can pay people what they're worth, but sometimes they're not worth that to your organization, right? It's just their skill set and their ability and their work ethic just doesn't fit with what you have. There's only so much I can pay a cashier. They may be brilliant, and they may be able to do all sorts of great things, but my business model couldn't support it. And so, that's a pain of hiring college kids too. One, they come in the summer and then they leave, but also they're not going to stay with you for the most part. I had one that decided to become a manager because she loved it. But staffing, I mean, it's hard. Don't just think, oh yeah, I'm going to pay you, you're going to come. That doesn't apply these days. It's worse now than it was when I did it.
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity, and everybody's an influencer or selling something on Instagram or driving Uber. I mean, I met a lady. I travel a lot for the sports cars. I go to all the conventions. And this lady says, I made 150 grand last year driving Uber and Lyft. And I get to see my kids whenever I want to. So I left the workforce.
Yeah. that's a
Well, you're
great
competing with that now.
that's a great life for someone that they want to make a certain amount of money and spend time with their family. Like, how can you fault them if that's what they want to do?
You
Yeah.
can't. Yeah, but she said she was making like 70, $80,000 doing management of something. Now she's making 150 and works whenever she wants to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
You know?
Okay, I'm challenged with I've got to make a choice here. I'm challenged with going down this banking path with you because it's a mystery for entrepreneurs, or going down the
Right.
entrepreneur path on baseball cards, because I like both. And you and I had a
Well, I blended the two. I bank five of the largest sports memorabilia dealers and a manufacturer in DFW.
oh, okay,
So I've combined the
there you
two.
go.
So we can combine the two.
Well, okay, I have to unlock some mysteries for entrepreneurs on the banking side, because
Yes,
as an entrepreneur, you're like, the bank only gives me money when I don't need it, when I personally guarantee, and why didn't they approve my loan, and why won't they give me more money in line of credit, and why, and these bankers are dummies, they don't understand what an entrepreneur is and everything. So you've got both of those sides. What have you seen as a banker? Um, what do you want to see as a banker, an entrepreneur coming to you, besides the strict banking requirements? Like, if you had two guys that checked every banking box, right, with the bank, but you could only give $1 million loan to one over the other, like, walk us through how a banker thinks about, those two decisions.
absolutely. So kind of starting at the first year comment, we only make about 3.5 to 4% between what we pay our depositors and what we charge our borrowers. And we're guaranteed to pay our depositors. We're paying you every month. But while we're lucky it's the vast majority, not all of the borrowers pay back on time or pay back at all. So that 3.5% margin is not a guaranteed margin. So that's one of the things I think that people, out of the industry don't realize is we're not an equity provider. We're not a mezzanine provider. We're not a high leverage. We are senior working capital bank, and we're not into risk taking. That's why we say, hey, we're going to loan you 50, 60, 70, up to 80% on something. We want your money in it because you're more committed. And a lot of the times we want your personal guarantee, not because you can go and write a check to pay us off, but so you don't just walk in, hand us the keys, and go, that business didn't work. We want you there. We want you invested in it, even when things go bad. So the top things that I look at is one, a realistic plan. If you say, hey, I'm going to buy this business that's done $1 million a year for 20 years, and in the first year we're going to do 5 million, and that's what I'm basing everything on, you're not being realistic. The amount of due diligence that some people do is just almost non-existent. Um, and really, it's showing that your lifestyle can um, work with this business. And have you saved up enough money to invest in it? Have you saved up enough money not to have to start taking $100,000 a year salary day one? Um, have you shown the discipline to manage your finances right? But one of the big things for me, and I'm seeing it more and more now than I ever have, is people trying to do big deals because they have the money, but they have no experience in the industry whatsoever at all. And, I know you said you didn't have experience, but there's a lot of people that cut hair
Mm-hmm.
that you could rely on. But there's people buying, pretty sophisticated companies with machinery, or it's a pretty sophisticated product that they're going to sell, and they have no industry experience. Hey, I'm going to start making steel trellises for, construction. Well, are you an architect? No. Do you know any builders? No. Have you ever done construction? No. Well, it's got great cash flow. You have to have a passion for the business, a love for the industry, or something to make it right. There's just too many people thinking it's an escape from 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because even when you have experience, it doesn't work. I mean, I'm not ashamed about it. I've talked about it. I want people to know my restaurants did really well for several years or a couple of years, and then it turned. And the trap I made was I'll just keep funding it until it comes back. I'll keep taking on debt until it comes back, and it never did. You just should get out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was with someone that knew what they were doing. So I think having experience, passion, showing that you've built up you put some thought into it. You just didn't find a great ad on Biz Buy Sell and think, okay, that's great. I'm going to start, manufacturing medical devices.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you talk about biz buy sell. every business on there pencils out to it makes a lot of money like that.
Yeah, no one says, "Hey, you want to go lose your ass? Come
That's
buy this
right.
business. It'll suck the life out of you because you'll have no free time. It'll ruin your relationship with your wife, and you may make 20 or 30 grand a year if you're lucky."
No, literally every business on there makes 20 to 30%, and it's consistent every year. It's
Oh yeah,
across every
absolutely.
industry.
Yeah, and I started talking openly about my troubles.
Mm,
I I'm in a public position. It's all public record, and so I thought, well, if someone's going to pull a record and find it, I'm going to beat you to the punch. I'm going to tell you about
mhm,
it. I had $250,000 IRS lien on my house because I chose to pay my employees instead of all my payroll taxes on time. I've since paid that off, but it's not easy, and it's not all glamour. And if you're going to go do something, I highly suggest you go work in that industry or get a job or do something, or at least tell someone, hey, I want to come work here for a week and to kind of get a feel for it just to understand it. Because owning restaurants is a lot different than being the CFO of 15 as many
yeah,
restaurants.
yeah, that's so true.
I mean,
I
yeah.
feel very, and I joke about it, but I would not have given myself a loan in 2008 if I was on the other side of the table. Um,
Well, that's what the SBA is for, though, is to make those entrepreneurs that have the vision and the foresight to do stuff like that. Because we wouldn't have made that loan without the SBA either,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
I think with the SBA and with what we saw in you, it made sense and we felt good about it. But, the SBA is there to help entrepreneurs succeed.
Hmm.
But, what I know is people loan me money and I did this and I did it. Just talking about advice is if you're going to take over an existing company that's struggling, make bold changes early. Don't try to do it gradually. Do it bold and do it early because if it's broken, you need to fix it.
Well, and the staff's already freaked out anyway about ownership change. Like
Absolutely.
they're at their peak state of uncertainty, and what am I going to do? And I'm probably I would imagine, and I've been through this actually many times acquiring businesses. I would imagine that 100% of the team members went on job boards and got their resumes together because their assumption is, I don't even know if this is going to work and I'm probably going to get fired and I need to protect myself. So I think you're right. You go,
Right.
hey, you guys, you're probably all looking at other jobs because you're probably thinking that you might get fired and you're probably thinking there's going to be a lot of changes and you're just honest with them and go, a lot of changes are happening, but I want your help. I want you to go through this with me. You're in the best position to give me feedback. And,
Yes.
and just be transparent about it. So I agree with that. All right, I want to take you up on this thought of getting into business you're passionate about because I feel like you've had time to discern. You've got all this experience. You entered a business that you're clearly passionate about. You love doing it. Probably doesn't even feel like work. So tell us about the current entrepreneurial adventure.
So I started collecting sports cards when I was 13 years old. I did it with my dad. He taught me business that way. My dad passed away when he was 61, about 15 years ago,
Mm,
had pancreatic cancer, and I kind of got out of the hobby because I did that with him. Closed the restaurants, owed quite a bit of money. I chose not to go bankrupt because that's not how I was raised. Pay people back. I started kind of back in the hobby. I just kind of buy and sell some stuff and got real successful with it. Hate to say this, but I was blessed by COVID because people
mhm.
needed money and I started buying collections. I put them online. They start selling because people are bored. And, now I make more money doing cards than I do at work at a bank. My wife still won't let me quit because she said it's more stable. But, um, I always viewed owning a business as I've got a ton of employees. I've got a building I go to. I've got equipment, whether that equipment is restaurant equipment or barber chairs or desks and computers. I've got a sign on a building. And that's what I viewed owning a business as. I always thought people that operated from home were, oh, they're not real business owners. You know, I got to have this. Well, I've got my wife as an employee, me as an employee, and we have her best friend that works with us. I have no rent other than my house payment. We do everything out of the house. And it's the most successful
That's
business
right.
I've ever owned. It's rewarding. I can put up on eBay and my other websites, hey, I'm out of this isn't going to ship for a week because we're in Mexico. You can't just do that. I mean, you can't say,
Mm,
hey, people, you're not getting your hair cut for 2 weeks because I'm traveling. You know, But I can do that. And so the biggest mistake I always made is that I had to own a bunch of physical assets to own a business. And I don't. And I'm passionate about it. We've now put our vacations around it. I travel. I'm going on I think 6 trips over the next 4 months to go to different cities to buy. And
Mm.
we've put trips around it, right? Like, hey, I'm going to Florida. Do you want to go to Disney after I do this? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, I've already got the hotel rooms and the travels covered, so let's go
Yeah.
do that. The biggest mindset though is this is the dream business. I mean, I operate out of the house with limited staff, no rent. I mean, if the internet goes out or electricity goes out, I was gonna be mad anyway because that's how I watch TV and stay warm and keep my food working. So it's a lot less stressful. It's a lot more profitable, and it's just I regret not thinking of doing it sooner. But I just like I said, I personally looked down on home based businesses for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Interesting. Well,
yeah,
I
this
mean,
has
it
been it's
sounds.
been a dream. It's the industry's on fire, and I got in at the right time, and I'm excited. Definitely.
Hey, so I mean, would you stand by that statement that you feel like you're not working a day in your life? Like, does it feel like work any days?
No, other than the days I buy a big collection and have to carry it all in, my back hurts, but that's rare. No, this is fun and it's a passion, and I'm better at it because I just love it. Like if you're not willing to read about your industry just because of passion and curiosity, it's probably the wrong industry for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Um,
so
well, hey, I almost forgot to mention, but I know you've seen these products. This is a venture that you guys did not have to fund because I made enough money at the Gents place to actually do it myself. But so Rascal's our show sponsor in season one, and I know you've used some of our products in the past, but th-
I have.
so this is I love consumer packaged goods businesses for the reasons that you mentioned in your baseball card and collectible business is like you can create products that are in a little package that can be manufactured somewhere, distributed somewhere, and have a very, very efficient model. So in Rascal, we do not technically have one employee. So
Oh wow,
it's a
you
collection
beat me.
of some freelancers, contractors, et cetera, that make it work. And so I think if you can get into a business that has the capability to do that, to run really lean, by all means, you should look at it. Okay, so Brian, there's a lot of talk in the entrepreneurship community and advice given around whether you should pursue your passion or you should pursue something you're really good at or a blend of both of those. So, do you have any advice now being in your passion business with cards? Do you have any advice on new entrepreneurs where they should go, how they should, what path they should choose in finding their entrepreneurial fit?
Absolutely. My story began when I was 13 years old, which was 35 years ago. I started collecting cards with my dad, sports memorabilia, and he used it to teach me business. And I had no idea that 35 years later, it would be the business that got me out of some debt related to the restaurants and let me grow a successful business. So, I definitely think if you have passion for it, you're going to be better at it. I think if you enjoy reading about your industry and you enjoy reading about your new line of business just for fun without thinking about how to make money out of it, that you're going to gain knowledge, have better ideas, be more innovative than you would be if you're just doing it to make money. Obviously, it's great when you can combine the two. But yeah, I have a passion for cards. I love it. I enjoy it. To me, it's a relaxation and it's a way to make money. So it's the best of both worlds. If you're in something just for money, the daily grind can kill you. Problems that pop up, and if you don't love it, it's just going to eat you alive. And that's something that I learned, and I think a lot of people learn that
We,
in their first venture.
It's so true. We have so many guys that sit on our chair at the gents place, unfortunately, that are really skilled at being an attorney or really skilled at being a whatever, fill in the blank, um, that are miserable. They're
Yes,
very good at it and make a lot of money, but they're miserable. Do you think, I'm just curious about this on the baseball card side, do you think your finance background, like what skill set are you bringing into that business that ultimately is making you successful beyond just the passion?
Well, the passion and the knowledge that I've gotten over 35 years of collecting and reading and just knowing what is good and different stuff that's out there. So the knowledge base is great, but really what I do is I allocate money. I buy inventory from people that have too much and sell to individuals. So I've gone from a hobby to I provide liquidity to a market. I help other dealers buy bigger collections by buying part of their existing inventory.
Mm,
I buy collections from individual people for down payments on houses. Unfortunately, occasionally divorces. I've paid rent. I'm sure I paid for other stuff that I don't
yeah.
want to realize I paid for. But I mean, I'm providing liquidity, and I get some really nice stuff that I wouldn't get buying onesie twosies.
Mhm.
I buy entire collections, and I provide liquidity to a market that has less people doing that than some other industries.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I've no joke. I've been thinking about you for months because, which sounds kind of creepy, but I see all your posts on social media. I've
Right,
got tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of baseball cards in my mom's garage in San Antonio, and I'm like, man, I need to
right,
get those. I need to get them over to Brian because I have some good stuff. So
yeah.
I will do that.
But there's people that have that stuff and they call me and I've paid people 10, 15, $20,000 and they thought they had, maybe a couple $1,000s worth of stuff.
Wow.
So it's fun to do that. It's a win-win.
Hmm,
I bought first cars for kids, help dad make the down payment or buy the car, and
that's cool.
it's fun, especially when we both walk away happy.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, man, where can they find you on the web? How can they sell you some stuff? How can they buy some things from you?
Well, Texas Card Shop we did some rebranding because we had kind of gotten confusing, and we have been operating. And this is maybe a good summary of the troubles you go through as an entrepreneur. I had WeBuyTradingCards.com and WeSellTradingCards.com. They're both still active. We're going to migrate that over to Texas Card Shop, hopefully here sometime soon. So Texas Card Shop will be fully spelled out. Will be the website. TX Card Shop is our eBay store. TX Card Shop 2 is our secondary eBay store. So that's how you can go buy stuff from us directly. But hopefully, by the time this airs, TexasCardShop.com will be alive and going, but we're getting close. We've been working on it, so trying to get there. So we're struggling with the branding, rebranding a little bit, but hopefully it'll help uh, kind of be consistent so people can find us.
Awesome. All right. Well, guys, you know where to find Brian if you want to buy or sell cards. He also gives out free money over at the bank for
Yeah.
funding your entrepreneurial journey.
Oh yeah, I got to do a plug for B1 Bank. I'm in the Frisco office at Hall Park. We're a $6.5 billion publicly held bank, and we're still active and healthy and doing business. So any entrepreneurs that want to come have their deal criticized by a banker, feel free to come on over, and we'll chat through it.
Nothing feels
Maybe we
better
can
as an entrepreneur to be criticized by a banker.
maybe we can replicate Ben's success.
Oh man.
Together.
Well, it's been a journey for sure, and you've been there from the beginning. So,
Yes,
uh,
sir. It's amazing to watch what you've done.
thanks, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and until next time, guys. Thanks for listening and enjoying the show.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, awesome.